Welcome to this week's video cast. We're at Breakaway Academy, joined by Andy Brink, Coach Andy Brink, from the Breakaway Academy. We're going to talk a little Breakaway Academy today. We're going to talk about some of the new tournaments that YHH is coming out with in the coming year. We're going to talk about a few of his players. Before we get started, I want to talk about we announced our Wiz Wyatt Award. Andy's familiar with it. His son Bobby was a finalist last year. We announced our Wiz Wyatt Award winners last week. We announced our Player of the Year, Bantam Player of the Year, Casey Middlestat, last night. We'll talk about that in just a second, as well as Ben Brinkman was our Pee Wee Wiz Wyatt winner, and Brock Faber was our Wiz Wyatt squirt winner. I'm sure you've seen plenty of those kids over the last couple of years, Faber and Brinkman. Faber last year for OMG and Brinkman this year. Let's talk a little bit about the whole concept of Wiz. I want to talk a little bit about the Wiz Wyatt concept, being a good athlete, being a good student, playing multi-sports. Great having you here because you're the ultimate Wiz Wyatt. You were probably a Wiz Wyatt Award winner back in the day, or at least a finalist, kind of like Bobby was. When you were at the U, you arrived at the U as a golfer and left as a golfer and a hockey player. Tell a little about the story about being the multi-sport athlete at the U, how that all actually went down.
Yeah, it's definitely a different path than most people take to playing Division I hockey, and especially at University of Minnesota. But you know, I'd always been a two-sport athlete growing up. I'd always played a lot of golf and played a lot of hockey. And growing up in Bemidji, our golf program up there was really strong. Very few people probably realize this, but we actually have the most state golf appearances and most state titles out of any other town in Minnesota. And
I would have guessed Alexandria myself, but just because of the Lehman brothers. But,
yeah.
Well, anyway, keep going.
Well, they were plenty good, but we had a few answers to those guys at that time. But so it was always really important to me to be a two-sport athlete, and golf was really important to me. And you know, I just had a very hard decision to make when I was a senior in high school. I had 3 Division I offers for hockey. North Dakota, Denver, and CC were the ones that offered me scholarships. And but I also was a good golfer and had interest from schools in the South as well. And I ended up going to a smaller college in Florida just because I won the state high school tournament my senior year, and it just had a lot of success. And it kind of drugged my feet a little bit in making a decision when it came to hockey, and ended up going down to Florida to play golf, but just felt out of place, just wasn't for me, and ended up going back to the University of Minnesota to play golf. And as the fall just continued, I felt like I should be playing hockey, and went and knocked on Doug Woog's door one day and introduced myself and asked if I could come out and start skating, and he said yes. But I hadn't skated in over 9 months, and it was kind of funny because about a month and a half later I was in the lineup, and the rest is history.
Tell the story about your first practice. I believe it was something right after the Gophers had gotten swept somewhere by UMD or something. You came down, they had a really hard practice, and tell a story about that really quick.
They had been swept the weekend before, and I can't remember who they played, but it was my first time on skates in 9 months, and I went out and had on all my old Bemidji high school gear, so I really looked foolish being out there amongst all the Gopher players at the time. And I remember they were giving it to me pretty good on the ice. They ended up skating the team really hard. Ended up being kind of a skating practice as punishment. And I remember Doug Woog skated up to me after about 50 minutes of it and just said, "Hey, when's the last time you skated?" And I was like, "Well, 9 months ago." And he couldn't believe that. And he's like, "You got to go sit down." He goes, "I didn't realize that." So it's kind of a funny start. But you know, it's kind of a crazy story, but it's really fun to talk about. And for me, I really, you know, I sympathize with these high school kids. There's really hard decisions you have to make. And at the time when I was, you know, 16, 17 years old going through that, I just had no idea what I wanted to do, and just didn't have a lot of direction or didn't have a lot of information. And obviously, I think colleges today are so much better too about just educating families about how to make those decisions.
Right. Tell a story about when you were on the team, and your first game ever was, I think it was at UMD, and yeah. you had to skate across the ice and get kind of hounded by some of the Bulldog fans. That's a funny story.
Well, it's probably the most embarrassing moment of my life, and hopefully I'll never top this moment. But it was my very first game for the Gophers. We were playing up in Duluth, and Duluth had a great team that year. They won the WCHA. Derek Plant and Chris Marinucci and John Roloff, and just a bunch of great players. And the old Midwest Sports Channel, since I had just joined the team, didn't have a picture of me, and so I had to skate out onto the ice after warm-ups while the Zamboni was going around. And the deck was packed because all the Duluth fans knew that the chances are they were probably going to beat us. They had such a good hockey team. And so they were very excited to watch the Gophers get beat up there. But I had to skate out onto the ice while the Zamboni's going around and stand at the center ice dot while Midwest Sports Channel zoomed in on me to take a picture. Well, since I'm the fans were running, what is this guy doing skating out in the middle of the rink during the Zamboni going around? And so they just started giving it to me really bad and just yelling all kinds of things. They did a chant. I can't remember what the chant was. And I just remember I wanted to get off there as fast as I could. And it was a tough way to start.
Your parents were probably there watching you play on the road, and family and friends, and you were getting just hounded and chirped, right?
Yeah, hopefully they showed up late and didn't hear all that. But it was really fun, and I was just so excited to play, and I was so naive at the time that I just couldn't believe that I was wearing that Gopher jersey and going out on the ice. I'm sure my head was somewhere else.
That's funny. Let's talk a little bit about some tournaments that YHH, and you're going to be involved in some of these, I'm sure. Tournaments that we'll be coming out with next year. We obviously have our 3 big tournaments, association-based tournaments. The YHH Squirtacular will become more of a national tournament next year. We've expanded to 64 teams. There'll be some information coming out on our site about that. Our Big Pumpkin Pee Wee tournament will be held in Moorhead this year. That'll be the first weekend in November. I'm assuming Andy's Chaska Chan team will be participating in that event. And our Blue Ox tournament will be held in Brainerd again the 3rd weekend in November. New tournaments that we're having a Pee Wee Challenge, all first-year Pee Wees. It's going to be a really exciting format. The top first-year Pee Wees, this year's first-year Pee Wees will be invited as second-year Pee Wees to participate in this tournament. It will be a draft format. It'll be similar to a Super Series or Selects, but the players will all be drafted by the coaches / general managers. That'll be a fun event in September. And then next summer we're hosting a MSP Classic, new AAA tournament for all age groups for AAA hockey. There'll be more news to come on that. Let's talk about some of the kids, Breakaway Academy kids. I've seen a lot of them play this year, and now that the season's over and winding down, let's talk about a few of those kids here. We can comment back and forth on it. Let's start with the first-year Pee Wees. It's hard, as you know, as a first-year Pee Wee to really stand out because the second-year Pee Wees in every age group are just much more mature physically. You can see a first-year Pee Wee, he's a little tiny kid, but next year he'll be the big man on campus. So let's talk about a few of them. I saw Johnny Middlestat yesterday when we announced the Player of the Year award. He was there watching his brother get the Bantam Player of the Year award. Let's talk about Johnny and a few of those other first-year Pee Wees that are in school here.
Well, yeah, Johnny's, first of all, the people that don't know Johnny very well, he's a tremendous athlete. He's good in multiple sports, and I know at Breakaway Academy when we do some off-ice activities, it's unbelievable the athleticism he has. So he's really fun to watch. And that's where Pee Wees is a funny age too, just because some kids are really going through a lot of growth. As you mentioned, Ben Brinkman winning the Whiz Wyatt. He's such a big kid. It's amazing in Pee Wee AA hockey this year. They're just the size discrepancies that you'd have. But Johnny's a kid that is very talented. He's a very fast skater, and I just from what I've seen of him and what I know of him, his game is just going to continue to get better and better as he keeps refining his stick handling and his shooting. But what I really like about him though is that he's just such a good athlete.
Cool. I'll talk about an athlete that I saw play at the Super Series a few weeks back, a kid named Griffin Streeter, who's, again, he's playing on Minnetonka. He's one of the few first-year kids. Maybe he's the only first-year kid on the Pee Wee AA team. Probably didn't stand out that much. He made some nice plays here and there, but he got to play against his own age group at the Super Series. So they're all first-year Pee Wees. And I think he had 3 or 4 goals, but as I told you off camera, I think he could have had 11. It was that dominant. He was just an incredible player. I asked you off camera, have you seen an improvement out of Griffin? And I want to just get what you said to me off camera. You can talk about it here now.
Oh, yeah, and that's a really hard part about Pee Wee AA hockey. And you get a lot of these first-year kids making teams, and boy, they're up against really good players. And so it's really difficult to stand out and to look great. But Griffin, no question, you put him amongst his age group, and he's going to look like a dominant hockey player. And he loves the game. I mean, there's as much as any other kid, he just is very passionate, and he has a really good shot. It's kind of a funny thing. Typically Minnesotans aren't known for shooting the puck incredibly well. It's not like we produce a tremendous amount of great scores, but he's a kid that just has a knack for shooting the puck. And but again, just he's so passionate about it. He just puts so much energy into it, and you come back the next day, and that same amount of enthusiasm is still there.
Let's talk about a couple of Chaska-Chan kids. Bobby, probably a little bit harder to talk about him because you probably see all of his weaknesses, but we've noticed some strengths in him as a non-biased viewer, as well as Calvin Barrett. Talk about those two guys really quick, just from your perspective. You had them on your team this year, and their development, their growth. I really thought they've come a long way since Squirts.
Yeah, no question they have. And the great thing for me, like especially coaching my own son, is Bobby has so many other great influences on his hockey life. He has Dave Snugrud here at Breakaway Academy. He has Jesse Willis here at Breakaway Academy. He has Lance Pitlick, who gets involved with Bobby with off-ice stickling at Breakaway Academy. He has Tim Hannes from Minnetonka, who helps coach his AAA team. And so I don't have to say that much to him, so that's really nice. And so I get to just be a dad sometimes and let other people worry about him. So Calvin Barrett is a kid that made our PBAA team this year in Chaska-Chanhassen, goes to school here at Breakaway Academy. And his development over the last 16 months, he's improved more than any other kid I've ever seen. But there's a reason why, too. His practice habits are so improved. When he comes to the rink, you know, he's out on the ice early. He listens so good. He does every rep as hard as he can. He's just making the most out of the time he's putting into the game. There's just no wasted time, and I'm really proud of how he's developed, because he's now able to compete against elite players his age, whereas 16 months ago, 17 months ago, he wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, I remember him last year as a Pee Wee, and I would say, this Barrett kid is really good, and he was just coming into his own, and you were like, yeah, watch, he's going to get even better. So let's talk about some of the second-year Pee Wees, the two Wayzata kids. We've talked about Rhett a little bit, but we've not talked much about Caden Bolson. Caden's a natural goal scorer, just a absolute sniper. I was out here a couple weeks ago getting some videotape for your video, and I got a beautiful snipe. We'll put it on this video as well that he makes. Anything he does never surprises me. He's got so much talent. Talk about those two Wayzata kids.
Yeah, so Caden's a great example. He has a tremendous wrist shot. He can shoot a wrist shot really well, and he's a great athlete. He's very fast and strong and athletic for his age. And it's going to surprise you to hear this, but he doesn't shoot a slap shot very well. So that's what's really fun for me when we go on the ice here. You work on something that the kids just don't do very well, and that's a weakness of his. So yesterday, for instance, was a scoring day, and it's a chance for him to shoot one-timers and to take slap shots. And as he continues to develop those other scoring skills, I mean, he's going to be an even better goal scorer than what he was this year at PBAA. So Caden's a very good athlete, and he is going to be a kid that you are going to hear about, next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. And he is so enthusiastic about the game of hockey. Anything he can do to work hard and get better at, he's going to do. And that's how Rhett Pitlick is too. Rhett does absolutely everything as hard as he can and as best as he can. And obviously with his dad's influence, he's been around the game so much and learned how to do things right. And that's what I think is the neatest thing when I talk to Lance Pitlick or talk to Rhett, is that they're not looking for any freebies or any notoriety. They just want to work hard and do their best and be the best that they can be. And Rhett's learned at a young age that you just kind of keep your mouth shut, you go about your business and do the best you can.
Yeah, let's talk about the three Chaska-Chan kids that stood out to me. All these five kids just made my other 45 list, meaning kids that I noticed out there, whether it be in our tournaments or covering or just being around the rink. Benz, Kester, and Warner. Let's talk about those three just a little bit as well.
Yeah, well, first of all three of them were excellent players for our Chaska-Chanhassen PBAA team this year. There's a few things that Mike Kester and Ethan Benz and Blaine Warner have in common. For one thing, they're extremely coachable. They are the nicest kids in the world. They are incredibly respectful. They're the kind of kids that if somebody's walking through a door behind them, they sit and hold the door open for the person. It doesn't matter who they are. They're just great kids. And that's how they approach athletics, and that's how they approach academics too. They're all three of them are very good students, and they care. And maybe that's the biggest thing. They really care about how they perform, whether it's academically or athletically, and their work ethic is so good. And again, they just kind of like what I mentioned with like Rhett Pitlick and some of the other kids. They make the most out of their opportunities. They listen so good. They try so hard. If there's something they're not good at, they ask questions. And they've been pretty fortunate kids. They've been able to be surrounded by people who really care about them and people that are able to steer them in the right direction.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks for joining me. I want to talk just a couple more seconds about the school, multi-sports is kind of the theme of today. One of the advantages, and I picked up on this a long time ago, is if you do your hockey during the day, especially in the off season like right now, a kid could play baseball, kid could play soccer, kid could play lacrosse, kid could play golf. They've got their hockey and they don't have to do it. I'm not anti-AAA clubs. You run a AAA club, but this is an opportunity definitely for a kid, if you go to school here, to have that opportunity. You guys, I'm sure you guys, just knowing you and Snuggie and Jesse, would obviously promote kids to play other sports in the off season.
Well, there's no question, if you have any ambition of being a good hockey player down the road, you got to be a multi-sport athlete. And I mean, a lot of people don't know this about Dave Snuggerud, but he played on the championship soccer team for Hopkins when he was
Against my high school, by the way.
Sorry to bring that up then for you.
They were the better team.
That was a bad memory for you. But there's no question, and so that's, I think that's probably one of the hardest things with parents today is managing their kids' schedule. And I know for me it's really important that my son participates in lacrosse, participates in golf, and is really passionate and competitive in those things. And so, we've tried to set up our schedule, whether it's Breakaway Academy, where the kids do their hockey training at the latter part of the day, which frees up their evenings to go play baseball, or whether it's our AAA teams or our hockey camps. We do everything in the mornings and early afternoons, and we never do anything in the evenings, just because, that's a time to go play baseball and play lacrosse and play golf and be with your family, or go water ski and do other activities. And so, I just think it's really important, if you're trying to be a well-rounded individual in anything, just in life, you don't just hang your hat on hockey and think that's going to be your only sport.
Well, thanks for joining me today on the broadcast. I want to talk a couple things. We will be handing out our CCM Reebok Goalie of the Year award. We have our nominations coming out later this week, and then we'll be handing out a live at the Staubers Goal Crease. We'll be handing out our award live to our goalie of the year. It could be anyone. The fun part about this award, it's not going to be just Pee-wees or squirts or squirt A's or double A's or C's. We could have a Pee-wee C goalie could win this award this year. It's going to be a fun award. Going through all the nominations and talking to all the different coaches, I can't wait to hand out this award this year. It's the Reebok CCM Goalie of the Year award. That'll be coming up in a couple weeks on YHH. Thanks to Andy Brink for having us out here at Breakaway Academy. Thank you to all of our fans for tuning in today. Have a nice day.